The morning they kicked me out, I still had half a cup of coffee in my hand. I remember it because I didn't even get to finish it. Daniel stood by the staircase, arms crossed like a substitute principal, and said, "Claire, maybe it's time you go." Behind him, Aubrey, the girl who once pretended not to know how to work the dishwasher, was wearing my robe, the white silk one, the one Daniel gave me on our second anniversary. And in the corner of the room, sitting on her pristine little throne of judgment, was Lois Monroe, my mother-in-law. "I warned you," she said. "You never respected this family." Not her family, just this one. The one that had somehow turned me into the outsider in my own damn house. I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't break anything. I just put the coffee cup down, picked up my bag, and walked out barefoot. Because I knew something they didn't. I was going to come back, not as a wife, but as their reckoning. It took exactly 3 days for Aubrey to move in after I left. Not that I was surprised. She'd already been sleeping in my house for weeks before that, probably using my shampoo, too. I found out from a neighbor, Jade, who texted me a blurry photo of Aubrey taking out the trash in one of my old hoodies. "I thought you said she was just a work friend." I didn't reply. What was there to say? I wasn't just replaced, I was rewritten. The Monroe family didn't waste time rebranding the scandal. Daniel went full PR mode on social media. Sometimes love means letting go. Claire and I are moving in different directions with peace. Lois posted a black and white photo of her and Daniel with a quote from Proverbs. "The wise woman builds her house, but with her own hands the foolish one tears hers down." Subtle. Aubrey, of course, started an Instagram account. Bio wife in progress. Blessed and protected, healing. I didn't follow, but I watched. They thought I'd disappear. Thought I'd vanish into some corner of regret and rent payments. Instead, I opened a new email, a new account, and started filming. I didn't show my face at first. Just a voice. One shaky video. One story stripped of names, just raw truth. I posted it on TikTok, set it to private, then changed my mind. Clicked public. Went to bed. When I woke up, it had 312,000 views. It came on a Tuesday. A plain brown box. No return label, no signature required. Just a tracking code and my name printed wrong. Claire no E. Fitting since they always spelled me wrong, even while I was in their lives. I knew what it was the moment I saw it. Lois Monroe, the saint, the martyr, the sharp tongue in designer scarves, was now dust in a temporary urn. And they'd sent her to me. Not because they wanted to, because the funeral home needed a registered emergency contact and surprised they'd never updated the paperwork. I stared at the box on my kitchen counter for an hour. Didn't open it, didn't touch it, just made coffee, watered my dying basil plant, checked my views. 1.2 million. The video where I told them about the morning I was kicked out barefoot mug still warm. I never used names, but people recognized the energy. Comments were flooding in. "You're not crazy, you're free. This is exactly what happened to my sister. Please go live again. We need to hear more." And then, as if on cue, I got the DM. From Daniel. "Hey, just so you know, we had to send Mom's remains to your address. It's temporary. Aubrey's allergic to cremated ash or something. We'll pick it up soon. No apology, no softness, just convenience." Aubrey was allergic to ashes. That woman had been allergic to accountability since day one. I didn't respond. I just looked at the box again, then at the camera on my phone, then back at the box. I opened TikTok, tapped go live, and hit record. "I'm delivering a package today," I told the camera. Something overdue. There were 47 people watching when I said it. Just a few usernames I didn't recognize. A couple comments saying things like, "You okay, Queen?" and "Wait, is this about the in-laws?" I didn't answer. I just showed the box. The drive took 18 minutes. Same streets I used to take to come home from work. Same right turn into the cul-de-sac that always felt too quiet, too clean, like secrets had to behave here. Daniel and Aubrey had decorated the porch. Little wreaths. A chalkboard sign that read, "Happy Birthday, Lois." I laughed so hard I had to pull over. I parked one house down, set up the tripod, fixed my mic, checked the box. Still sealed. Still light. Lighter than she'd ever been in life. I walked to the porch carrying her like a handbag. Knocked once, didn't wait. The door opened. Aubrey stood there in a pink wrap dress, mascara done, lips glossy like she was trying to look soft. Daniel stood behind her holding a glass of white wine. They froze. "Hi," I said, smiling for the camera. "Did someone lose a mother?" Aubrey blinked. "Claire, what are you doing?" Daniel took a step forward. "You can't just show up here." I lifted the box, tapped it once. She wanted to come home. Then I placed it gently on the doormat between their matching sandals. "Be careful," I said. "She's fragile now." Aubrey gasped. "You're filming this." The live count hit 4,900. I turned the camera, slightly angled the lens toward the house, careful to catch the shocked expressions and the balloons in the background. "Of course I'm filming. You didn't think I'd let this moment go undocumented, did you?" Daniel's voice cracked. "You're insane." "No," I said, stepping back. "I'm archived." Comments were flying now. "Not her returning the ashes. Iconic behavior. This is art. This is justice." I gave the camera one last look. "Delivery complete. No refunds. Goodbye, Lois." Then I walked off the porch and let the chat erupt behind me. By the time I got home, the video had crossed 2 million views. By midnight, it was trending on TikTok under Dumber Ashes Back Challenge, which, horrifying as it sounds, had already spawned 2 parody remakes and 1 diss track. The internet doesn't wait for context. It just picks a side. And for once, I wasn't the villain. My DMs flooded. Some hateful, sure. People calling me disrespectful, immature, evil. But most were women. "You just did what I've wanted to do for years. They buried my voice long before anyone died. You brought it back." I cried. Then I laughed. Then I subscribed. 3 major accounts reposted the clip. One added closed captions and dramatic piano music. Another stitched it with the line, "This is what closure looks like in 2025. Even the local news picked it up. Arizona woman returns ashes of ex-mother-in-law live on TikTok in a moment now hailed as post-divorce performance art. Performance art. I didn't hate it. Daniel texted, then called, then left a voicemail. "What the hell are you doing?" Aubrey's crying. "My aunt saw this. Claire, this isn't funny." I blocked him. Aubrey posted a blurry selfie with puffy eyes and the caption, "No woman deserves this. I'm heartbroken. Please respect our grief." The comments weren't kind. "But did you respect her marriage, girl? That ain't your urn? Why is the robe you're wearing from Nordstrom in Claire's closet?" I didn't say a word. Not online, not offline. I didn't need to. Because for the first time in months, the truth was talking for me. They tried. Oh, they really tried. Aubrey posted a healing journey reel, candles, bath bombs, her fake crying into the camera with a quote overlay. Grief looks different on everyone. Daniel reposted it with a caption about privacy and moving forward with compassion. The comments were brutal. "You kicked her out barefoot. You didn't grieve Lois when she was alive, bro. She returned your mom with more grace than you deserved." They scrubbed their socials for a week. Aubrey deleted every post that included the urn. Daniel unfollowed half his friends, probably anyone who dared to comment L under his last post. I didn't respond. Because while they were scrubbing, I was building. A podcast reached out. Then a small online magazine. Then a mid-tier YouTuber with a series called Digital Divorced Women Who Refuse to Break. I turned down the first 2, but I said yes to the YouTuber. She came to my apartment, tiny rented, still half unpacked, and filmed me sitting cross-legged on a folding chair, talking about betrayal inheritance, and how closure is just rebranding for women who've run out of energy. The episode aired 2 days later. It got 480,000 views in 24 hours. By the end of the week, I had an inbox full of collaboration requests, not from brands, but from women, real ones. Single moms, students, ex-wives, daughters of narcissists, strangers who felt like sisters. They didn't want makeup codes. They wanted a voice. So I made space. Opened a Discord, started streaming weekly, created a community called Ashes Back, not just for women like me, but for anyone who's been told you're too much just because they wouldn't stay small. Aubrey tried to start a channel too. It didn't land. Too many people remembered the robe that wasn't hers, the house that wasn't hers, the mother-in-law she mourned only after I walked off camera. I didn't need to drag them anymore. They were dragging themselves. All I had to do was keep walking forward. The first international message came from Poland. A woman named Anya. She wrote in perfect English, "I watched your live stream with the ashes. I watched it 10 times. My ex-husband didn't cheat, he disappeared. But your video helped me stop waiting." Then came DMs from Brazil, Taiwan, Finland, Nigeria. Not all heartache. Some were just awe. Some just said thank you. And some said teach me. So I did. Not a course, not a self-help book, just stories. Unfiltered, raw. The nights I ate crackers for dinner. The day I used my last $200 to get a tripod and a decent mic. The job interviews where they smiled too wide when I said recently divorced. The rage, the rot, the rebuild. It all went into the stream. By fall, I had over 800,000 followers, a Twitch deal, a Patreon community, a sponsorship from a cremation service, no less. Ironic. Absolutely. But I took the deal. Because why not make a little profit off the very ashes they handed me? Daniel texted again. "You've made your point. Can we please talk?" I didn't reply. Aubrey sent an email. Subject line closure. I archived it. Then came the interview request from a New York Times contributor. A feature called The Modern Widow. How one woman buried her marriage and dug up a movement. I laughed when I read it. Because technically I never buried anything. I gave it back. They flew me to New York. I wore a black jumpsuit, sat on a stage next to a political activist and a trauma therapist. The moderator asked me, "If you could go back and do it differently, would you?" I smiled, tilted the mic. I wouldn't change a thing. Because some people get reborn in hospitals. Others, they get reborn holding a cardboard box on someone else's porch. Ruthless. That was the word Daniel's cousin used in a comment thread. She could have handled it privately. She didn't have to humiliate them like that. So ruthless. It got 10 likes. I didn't respond, but I saved the screenshot. Because every time someone says ruthless, what they mean is, you didn't shrink when we expected you to. They wanted me to dissolve. Into a sob story. Into a sad little footnote with a private breakdown and a modest divorce. They wanted me quiet, soft-spoken, forgiving. I gave them none of that. And that's what made them uncomfortable. I didn't bounce back. I built something different. From ashes, from screenshots, from silence that I turned into a signal. And women saw it. They didn't want a fairy tale. They wanted a template for what to do after the knife lands. I got hate mail. I read it with tea. I got called attention-seeking. I replied with affiliate links. One man emailed me directly an anonymous burner account to tell me he hoped I died alone. I didn't reply, but I pinned his message in a subscriber-only stream titled, "Tonight's content is brought to you by this gentleman." The comments were ruthless. Not me, them. Lois would have hated everything I became. She once told me that women who speak too loud stay single too long. And maybe that's true. But I'd rather be single in a clean apartment than married in a house haunted by entitlement. These days, my inbox is full of women asking how I did it, how I found the courage. And I tell them the truth. It wasn't courage, it was clarity. Once you know no one's coming to save you, you stop waiting. You start walking. The email came at 3:08 a.m. Subject coffee. "Claire, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but if there's any way we could meet, even just for 10 minutes, I'd appreciate it. Daniel." Always showing up when the dust has settled, never during the fire. I didn't respond right away. I thought about what I'd wear, what I'd say, what I wouldn't say. And then I wrote back. "Subject re-coffee, sure. But I'm bringing a list. You'll listen to all of it before you speak. If that's a problem, don't come." He replied within 4 minutes. "Deal. We met at a coffee shop downtown. Neutral ground, public, well lit. No room for sentimentality. I wore black jeans, no makeup, and the same shirt I had on the day he told me maybe you should go. He looked older, like shame aged him. Or maybe guilt just doesn't photograph well in real life. He stood when I walked in. I didn't. I opened a small notebook, one I kept for when closure required documentation. "You said you'd listen," I reminded him. He nodded. So I began. Point 1. You let her wear my things before I was even out the door. Point 2. Your mother never liked me and you weaponized her approval. Point 3. You let the world believe I left in rage. I left because you handed me the key to silence and told me it was kindness. Point 4. The ashes weren't revenge. They were accountability hand-delivered. He didn't interrupt, not once. When I finished, he looked like he wanted to cry. But I don't do tears from men who once watched me drown. I didn't know how much I hurt you, he said quietly. No, I said. You didn't care enough to ask. He nodded. I'm sorry. I closed the notebook. Good. Keep that apology. You'll need it later. He asked if we could try friendship. I smiled like someone who just read a plot twist she saw coming. You can follow the account like everyone else, but no comments. Then I stood up, and I left him exactly where he used to leave me, sitting in silence while I moved on. I don't live with rage anymore. That was a season useful clarifying, but it passed. Now I live with discipline, with boundaries, with silence that doesn't ache. Because some endings don't explode, some just settle. And that's what I did. I settled into power. The channel's steady now. The podcast is in its second season. Ashes Back has chapters in 12 cities meetups, support groups women who used to whisper and now walk with purpose. People still ask me, was it revenge? And I say, no, it was a reminder, not to them, to me, that I was never disposable, that I never needed their table, because I could build my own and fill it with people who don't flinch when I speak. Sometimes I drive past the old neighborhood. Daniel and Aubrey still live there, or at least they did last I heard. I don't check anymore. I don't need to. They're not the story now. I am. Lois's urn. I heard they eventually moved it to a shelf in the hallway, where no one looks. And maybe that's fitting, because the version of me they tried to erase, she's gone. But the version that stayed, the version that chose herself, she's everywhere now. This isn't a comeback. It's a continuation of a life they tried to bury but forgot I don't burn easy. And if I do, I rise in the smoke.